Okay, Hassani here. In this video today, I want to speak about a heart centered approach to an executive mindset. Now, what do I mean by executive mindset? So, I'm not talking about necessarily having to be an executive in an organization. What I'm speaking about more broadly is being in a position of self authority and self leadership. Now, you may be a creative, an entrepreneur, a high performing professional. You know, it's anything that requires you to think for yourself. You may even be unemployed, right? And you could be figuring things out, and that's totally fine. So, I want to talk about the executive mindset and also talk about a heart centered approach to executive mindset. So, first, let's get clear on some terms here. What do I mean when I say executive mindset, executive thinking? So, executive thinking, we can think about using the frontal cortex, seeing into the future, creating models, strategies to get things done in the most effective way, using the the power of the thinking to get clear, to take us further. When we think about executive thinking, we can bring to mind a person who's managing lots of information, lots of ideas and content and people, and they're, the person is they are seeking to understand what to do next, and they're thinking for themselves and looking at information and data and working with their emotions and thoughts to be able to understand what has to happen next. So, this executive thinking is what's required of us when we are interacting with the unknown, for example, the future, right? What step to take next. When we talk about heart centered, what does that actually mean? Now, depending on where you're based and what circles you move around, you may have already heard this notion, this idea of something being heart centered. So, the way that I would define heart centered is anything that it's a state of conscious and it's anything that requires an awareness of what's going on in the body, an awareness of what's happening in the heart. Now, this isn't the actual heart, the physical beating heart. What we're talking about here is the heart space. Now, this is a term which is bandied around in spiritual circles, in conscious development and conscious lifestyle circles. And what this means is that the person is seeking to get close and tune into the information that's passing through their body. Now, the heart space can be thought of as the place where you experience your emotions. For most people, it's kind of below the rib cage. For some people, actually, is in the chest area. For others, it's kind of below the rib cage in the soft parts of the belly. So, say, for example, you have a moment of fear, or you're in some kind of conflict, or you're about to have some date with someone that you find attractive, or you feel, you know, wherever you feel your feelings basically in your body. And for most people, that's kind of in the upper abdomen, in the chest area. You know, this area is actually a connective point, a superhighway connective point of the nervous system. And the large majority of neurochemicals and hormones that we process through our bodies can be most experienced in this place effectively, right? So when I say heart centered approach, what I'm talking about is listening and feeling into the body and using that information to also influence the executive mind, the executive thinking capacity. So, how do we connect with this space? For some people, they may not actually experience or have feelings or emotions in this area. I've done lots of work to be able to have quite a high resolution view on what I'm feeling and experiencing in my heart space or heart center, in my center, more broadly speaking. And what this means is that when I'm having an experience, a moment or an event is happening to me, I can feel in my body, the body contracting or opening. I can feel a sense of closure and discomfort, or I can feel a sense of warmness and elation. So think, for example, say, you're making friends with someone new, or you're connecting with someone, and you feel like this opening is happening in your chest, in your heart space, in your upper abdomen, good sensations, good feelings, for example, butterflies. That can be thought of as being the heart space, the heart center. So when it comes to thinking and logic and reasoning and analysis and data and information, of course we want to process that through the head. But people talk about having a gut feeling, a hunch. Well, this heart center can also roughly be approximated to the gut feeling as well. So the purpose here, the goal here, is being able to use both of these systems, the physical body as a system to process information, and also using the mind to process information, and perhaps even AI. But the purpose here is that we want to connect with the body and understand what's happening in the body. Because, for example, you may have the perfect information set, you may have the perfect data, the perfect team, the perfect numbers, the perfect KPIs, but something may still feel wrong. So when this feeling of something wrong is happening, it's oftentimes that there's parts of us, for example, the subconscious mind, subconscious parts of us, that are aware that something isn't clicking, or something isn't making sense, or something isn't the truth the way we'd expect it to be. So the body senses that there's some kind of danger. And then there's a release, for example, of cortisol, stress hormone, where we can feel that discomfort in the body. Say the gut feeling feels wrong, or the heart space feeling feels wrong. But equally, there's times when we have limited information and limited data and facts, but sentiment is so high and it feels good in the body, so it feels like a yes, right? It feels correct, it feels good, it feels wonderful. So the point to recognize here is that to elevate and to go further in executive mind, we can blend together both information sets. So, for example, stock traders, they talk about rational thinking, right? And they talk about not using the emotions in thinking. So what I'm actually proposing here is that we're able to switch between. We're able to look at what's happening, look at the information, look at the content available to us, and equally be able to connect to the feelings of the story that's being created. So what I mean is that when we have a story in our mind, the brain tells the body to produce and release certain neurochemicals and hormones into the bloodstream. So say, for example, you're thinking about the future and it's stressful. Say, for example, you're thinking about, some critical event or conflict or some financial issue in the future. That actually is telling the brain to start releasing cortisol, stress, adrenaline now, even though the issue, the thing which has to be avoided, could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month away. So the point I'm making here is that the story that we tell ourselves and create for our reality is the story that we actually experience as feelings in the body. The body responds to the story and the experience. So if a car pulls out at you whilst you're driving along, of course, that's obviously a danger, it's a threat, so you're going to experience stress, adrenaline, fear happening all at once. Say, for example, if it's a big deal that's being created, if it's something which is very, very high stakes, you're of course going to experience fear, stress, adrenaline in relation to that as well, because the story that's in your mind and being created is being experienced in the body. So what I'm suggesting here is that we seek to get clear when it comes to the feelings that are in our body. And one way of doing that is through meditation. We can meditate, we can calm the nervous system, calm the mind in such a way as to be able to really listen to what's happening in the body. And this is very, very important because if we can calm down the body through meditation, through a clearing practice, through a calming practice, and then be able to look at information, look at data, and look at facts, and look at figures, then we can really tune into the feeling, the heart space, the gut feeling in the body, which can then assist us in making those big decisions. Now, I'm not suggesting that we always be fully in our feelings and use the feelings and turn to them as the final say. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that, say if all the numbers look right and sound right and the team is in place and everything's about to roll, but you still feel wrong about it, something feels strange about it, what I'm suggesting is that you actually zoom into that feeling and seek to reverse engineer why you're feeling having this particular experience. Because there has to be something which is off, either in your perception of the situation or in the actual situation that the mind, the subconscious mind, is subtly aware of, but the conscious mind, your thinking, egoic mind, may not be aware of. So the importance here is that we're able to meditate and calm and move to clear the nervous system so that when something does come online, when there is an experience being created via these neurochemicals and hormones, we actually get to look at that and seek to understand what's really going on. So some questions that we can ask ourselves is, hey, body, what's going on? What do you feel right now? And you can actually use that as an observation tool to see if there's any fear or anxiety or worry or concern about a particular event or circumstance. And then once you've been able to spend that time and ask that question and feel a response in the body, then you can ask a question like, how could things otherwise be? Now, this is more of a mind question than a feeling question, but it basically invites you to explore what's going on with this feeling and why it exists, okay? And also as well, just consider that from this heart space of executive mind, it isn't just bad feelings that we need to consider and look at and analyze. We need to also consider good feelings as well. Because if we feel elated, excited, ecstatic about something, we haven't got much information, that can also lead us down a dangerous path. So the goal here is being able to calm the mind, calm the body, so that when events do come up and do happen, and you feel an emotion in the heart space, in the gut feeling, however you wish to describe this, that actually gives us content to analyze and look at and think about what's really best for us at this time. Or if there are any stories or patterns that are lying beneath the surface that the ego mind is using to block you from taking an advanced step. Say, for example, a person is offered an opportunity in a different country and everything looks great, numbers look great, everything seems all planned out, but the person's having some anxiety or some fear or is worrying. Well, then that person would need to seek to understand why they're having fear or worrying. It may not necessarily be that the opportunity on the other side of the world is a bad opportunity. It may just mean that there's some fear, some pain, some mourning, potential loss of the lifestyle of the story the person was already in. So we use the heart center as a way to test for our stories that we hold around a particular event or circumstance. Say for example, a person disrespects you and you feel this anger coming up, right? That's telling you that you don't appreciate being disrespected. It doesn't mean you have to punch someone. It just means that you have to look at what's going on and sense, oh, okay, there's something here that's worth me kind of looking at because I'm experiencing something, which means that my body is producing hormones, neurochemicals, neuropeptides to show me and to get my attention of something that could be either good or bad for my survival possibilities. So when I hear about heart space and heart space healing, there are some parts which obviously are woo-woo. But the point here is that regardless, with this explanation, we're able to understand that if we're having a feeling, having an experience in this heart space, it's because of something. And then the goal then is to understand what that because of something actually is. And once we've done that and cleared that, and we've breathed through the discomfort or breathed through the elation without making a rash decision, that's when we can also again consult the numbers, facts, figures, information to see if what really is happening really is what we want to happen. So in terms of executive mind in this new age of reality that we're moving into, it isn't just about looking at numbers. We're going to have artificial intelligence that can look at numbers and make predictions. So it's going to require us to be able to look at the summary of results, see how they feel, and then ask ourselves, is there anything influencing the way I feel about this, good or bad? And that will protect us and support us in this process of having an executive mind, of leading our future, of getting clear of things, of leading a team, for example. Okay? So there's just some thoughts there about heart-centered executive mind and mindset, right? It also relates to leadership as well, because if we're dealing with people, people around us will just in general interact with our emotional state of being. So what we need to do is say, okay, great, something's happening here. I can feel something's happening. What does that say about me? What does that mean for me? What is the story that I'm in that's creating this sensation, this emotion, this experience? So key takeaways is that depending on the story we have in our mind, the body will release certain neurochemicals and hormones accordingly. So if we can keep the story clear, if we can come to meditation and calm the nervous system, calm the body, what happens is that when those signals do come, when they do come online, it means that we can better interact with them and ask them questions. In fact, even in meditation, if you're having a strong emotion, you can actually think and imagine yourself talking to that space, saying, hey, what's going on? Why do I feel like this? And you'd be surprised at how often answers can be generated from doing this process, because it's really a walk home to ourselves. It's really being able to connect with what's going on inside of us at any given time. And that is what goes on to improve the executive mind, the thinking capabilities, because we have a greater bandwidth available to us to be able to think and do stuff in the world. Okay, so any questions, of course, leave below, but that's all for now. Thank you.